My first play in elementary school. Really? I mean, I think it was like a play that the teachers wrote about the history of Vancouver. And
you were evergreen number 2.
Wrong fun. I played the ball, and I was like the lead, which meant that I was sort of like the one who did all the explaining of the history of Vancouver to my children. But really, it was the first time I ever acted, and it was just such a wonderful experience. I loved the rehearsal process, and I was the only person who memorized my lines. Teachers were really impressed with that. I think whatever it is that makes you catch the bug is, the first seed, and then you decide whether or not you're going to water it.
Okay. Somebody's got to, I guess, you're waiting for a long story here, okay. Okay, that's it. Anyway, I had no idea that I would ever become an actor, and I went to a theater because somebody said, you really need help, Richard, and said, go to this class, and they're going to help you. And I showed up, and I remember the sign over the door said, no acting, please. And it was an acting class. And so I went to this class, and they had people like the original Sue Lyon hanging around, Hampton Francher, who wrote Blade Runner, Jack Nicholson, people like that. And I was this little LA surfer boy. And going to college, I wanted to be an architect, and I walked into this class, and the thing I really noticed was, I was scared fractals. That word really helps, doesn't it? But it doesn't really quite have the punch, that other word. Anyway, so I went to that class, and I kind of learned about myself, and I realized that class was really, you couldn't really access all these parts of yourself unless you really learned about yourself. And half the exercises were really learning about how to get in touch with your feelings, learning how to express, learning how to bring down all the inhibitions, the walls. And I had no intention of being an actor. I just thought, this is good for me, this is going to help me. And I remember doing a scene from This Property is Condemned, and it was the first time I was on stage where I was able to, for the first time, connect to the other actress, forget where I was, be in the moment, and let the material come through me. And I had this amazing experience, which I'm sure every actor here has their own version of that. But it just was the most magical, most profoundly touching, moving experience of my life. And I thought, my God, I had no idea this is what it was. And the teacher came up to me and said, if you really work hard, you can become an actor. And that kind of set me on the path. And I got to tell you that so many people think acting, everybody has their own version of it, but acting is so much more, I think, than most people realize. It's truly an art, it's a spiritual process, it's a journey, and for me it didn't matter whether it turned out to be famous or make money or any of that. For me, it was just a process that kind of connected me to my soul. So it took me a year. I never expected to be on the same stage with wonderful actors, and I got to tell you, I was blown away. I honestly thought those people on the TV, the movie, were those special people. And I never dreamt that I would ever be on the same stage with all the same people. So here I am, and so say we all.
Another question? Or should we keep on this end? Go ahead.
So often, things that can left on the vanity floor that due to time restraints. Is there any scenes that may have really contributed to your character development? Favorite scenes that may have been left that you wish I had not made I created for the DVDs?
there are many, many scenes that were left out in every single script because they're basically, we would shoot about anywhere between a 52 to 57 page script every week, every 8 days, that is. And we would not be able to use but 41 minutes. That's how long the show was. So you were really, it became really disastrous. And there were many times when a lot of us were just crushed by the stuff that was left out. And major situations that were not put in even in the DVDs. It's a brutal process. And we often wondered why they gave us 57 pages. It would be rushing through, like, couldn't do the work really well because we had to get all these pages done. But then when you got to the editing room, you just couldn't use all this material. I often said, why can't we have like a 44-page script? It takes more time and not have to shoot, 7 to 8 pages a day. But yeah, it's disastrous. And to go back and say, this is one that every one of the people up here, honestly say that by the time they were butcher nails, didn't know what they were doing. It's like, wow, this is not what I read. But at the same time, they made sense because of the post-production and the way the editors worked. They were so good, the editors were just extraordinary. And they really made us look really good. And they kept all the false notes out. And I found it to be one of the most progressive pieces of work that I've worked on. Because of the editing process and the post-production process was just fantastic. And I think they're the ones who really deserve the accolades. And a lot of them got it because the accolades for a lot of post-production got the edits. And it's really well deserved. Special effects, visual effects.
So just a quick, so often when you see a scene that you've shot that you're really proud of, and it's one thing to do a great scene behind closed doors, an acting class, but when you got to do it on set, when it counts, and you finally really feel like you're really connected and you really kind of, did something special, and then when they cut it, it's really painful, and it really is because you were so proud of that piece. And I think until you kind of get on the other side of the camera, and you're directing, and then you go in that editing room, and you really, and I remember that I was having to edit myself, because I was one of the actors in the piece, and I had, really worked hard to do the best work I could do. And I remember doing this again, great scene, and I'm sitting there, this great scene, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't work. And the hardest thing, I shouldn't say the hardest thing, because the funny part is when you're on the directing side, you start to see it as a whole piece. You kind of move out of the acting perspective, the acting ego, all of that stuff, and you get to see the larger picture. And then you really develop an appreciation for all the parts of the story that are made up by all the actors, all the moments, all the wonderful things that happen. And so you start to let go. You start to trust letting go and having faith that even if every moment, every word, every piece of dialogue that you love is not in there, that the larger picture is, the message is communicated, the character comes through, and all is well. So I think every actor should be on the other side of the camera at least once in their life and be in that editing room just to see what that's all about, because then you have a greater appreciation